Hey, good morning guys, and welcome back. What I'm going to do today is continue to talk about gear and get into a little bit more detail about a sort of a kit or a loadout that you may want to develop, and that's also going to have some options in it depending on the specific nature of the mission that you're going to go on. So in the previous talk I was pretty clear that there's certain things you want to consider, but you're going to have to balance that against what your specific mission is going to be, and you want to go as light as possible as long as you're carrying the equipment that you're going to need to achieve the mission. And so certain considerations on that are going to be, for example, you've got to carry a sufficient amount of ammunition. You preferably want to be wearing a plate carrier with body armor plates, and you want to therefore, because you're going to be carrying a certain amount of gear, if you carry too much gear, you're going to become a tactical no-go. Okay, you're going to be a non-starter, and so if we're going to be conducting some kind of operation, then we're going to have to consider the terrain and weather and duration of that. And if that means that you're going to be carrying a lot of gear, then that may become too much gear, and also that might have an impact specifically depending on what that terrain and weather and duration considerations are onto whether you can practically wear body armor plates, and that factors fitness in, etc., into all of that. So what that means is generally, you want to try and use logistical support as best as possible so that you're not having to walk miles over difficult terrain in really hot weather, whatever that might be, so that you can just wear on you what is necessary for the mission. And it's very easy to carry too much gear, and I'll touch on that a little bit today. And what you've got to remember is that no man is an island. So if you're conducting some kind of operation, then it needs to be properly planned and it needs to be resourced. And you can't, for example, think that you're going to carry all the ammunition on you. You can only carry a certain amount before you become a tactical no-go, and therefore you're going to have to consider how we're getting ammunition forwards, how we're getting casualties out, etc. So there's a lot that goes into this, and I'm going to sort of touch on that today. So the first thing we might want to consider is our battle belt. So the idea of the battle belt is a kind of a lightweight belt which carries some basic things on it, and there are various reasons for this, but partly it's to download some of the stuff that people got into carrying on a rig or a plate carrier and downloading it onto the hips where it's going to be more comfortable and take that weight off the plate carrier. And at the same time, because you've got this basic gear, it's comfortable to wear all the time. So for example, you get into a more secure location, a patrol base, a compound, wherever it might be, and once you've got security established and that allows you the opportunity to perhaps take your plate carrier off, then you have some basic gear on you as you're moving around. And so for example, what this is built off, it's actually a first spear belt, which is very useful because it has Velcro on the inside, which you can cover up if you want to. The thing about this is that there's an inner belt that comes with, and so when you wear the inner belt, the Velcro attaches to that, and it stops it moving around, and it also reduces the need for suspenders. Another option on this is to wear sort of a light pair of suspenders to take the weight of this belt, but it shouldn't really be that heavy that it's going to really be causing you an issue. And for example, what I've got on here is I got 2 magazines for handgun holster on the other side, and I got 2 magazines for rifle, and these are actually the KYWI Tac Pouches, which means that there's a piece of Kydex in there which is great for reloads, etc. Rolled up dump pouch, medic pouch as in IFAK. This I just have on here. I can put water in here if I want to put a bottle of water in here. Sometimes when I'm doing training, etc., I'll put a radio in there. So just a spare pouch, knife, handgun, tourniquet, which is accessible to me on the front, and I got a multi-tool. So this is your basic kit for your belt kit, and that's really useful because you can put that on and wear that at all times. So once we start to move away from our more secure area, then we get into the big debate about whether we're going to wear plates or whether we're not going to wear plates. And as I said previously, it's a great idea to wear body armor plates if you can. And actually, if you're going to go on some kind of operation where you expect there to be a kinetic kind of operation, then you want to plan it in a way that you can wear a plate carrier with body armor plates. If there's sufficient terrain, weather, and other things involved in that, then you maybe want to factor that out of your planning. Okay, or if you have to go out on some kind of multi-day operation in the jungle, etc., then that's where you start to say, hey, we're not gonna sustain body armor plates. It's a big issue, okay? And what that comes down to is your protection versus your mobility and your ability to sustain out there. Okay, so I have here this is actually a First Spear AAC, Assault Armor Carrier, and this is a really good piece of kit. So I had the option with the 3 mag pouches on the front, into which I inserted the KYWI mag retainers. So basically, it's not just a pouch there, it's actually got the KYWI in there. Okay, so that's really good. I managed to put a tourniquet on the bottom here. Now, what's really good about First Spear is it comes with the tubes, which are really good, because what you've got with the tubes, okay, is when you put this thing on, you don't have the whole lifting up of the front and the Velcro and all that kind of stuff. So not only can you take it on and off silently, but it's really convenient too. Just a note here, on either side, you've got these pouches. So if you are carrying a radio of whatever description, okay, this is where these are going to go. So the radio is going to slide into this pouch here, okay, and then the tubes are going to do up on the outside, and it's going to be held against your side. And that's also useful because if you need to access that, then you can access it rather than having it on the back, etc., where you can't access it. So that's where I would put comms equipment on this rig. I've also got on this rig, because you might be in situations where you want to carry more than the 3 mags on the front and then the the 2 mags on the belt kit, is I actually have a couple of mags on the side here. You can put side plates in if you want to. Again, that's one of those, hey, how much weight do I want to carry, balancing protection, everything's a calculated risk in a combat situation. I got a little admin pouch on the side here, for pokey bait, etc. And I just threw on a padded night vision pouch here, which means I can get to my night vision quicker if I need to. Now, what's useful on the back, getting into the idea of how much kit you're going to carry and to be as light as possible, I've got one of these Tier Tactical little assaulter pouches on the back, which is actually zipped on. And so if I just undo this, it'll zip off, and the actual things that it attaches to, these will fit on any, so it's Tier Tactical, but it's on a First Spear vest, so they'll fit on any molly back vest, and then you can attach this to it, and then this thing actually expands, because you can get various types of them, but it basically opens up to expand, so you can carry a certain amount of kit on it. It does have a bladder inside it, so that's really useful in terms of if I want to carry a certain amount of sustainment gear for a short-term operation, I can do it with this. I can also have nothing in it other than perhaps the water bladder, and then I can just put a day pack on over the top. That's going to push it out a little bit to the back, or I can unzip it and say, hey, that's not enough for today, I'm going to carry a day pack. The issue with having one of these on the back is because it's not a day pack that you put on with straps, in a traditional sense, then you can't get to it. So you've got to have a buddy. Either you got to have a buddy, or you get to it when you take it off. You just have to take your PC off, so you'd have to go to a security stop and take it off, which is obviously not ideal, having to throw that back on again. It just depends on the circumstances. So that's the disadvantage of having something of a sustainment pouch that's attached to the back. But what the advantage of that is you only have one set of straps over your shoulders. So the more straps you start to get over your shoulders, the more it starts to impact you on moving your rifle and just pulling you back, and just it starts to kind of inch you towards being a tactical no-go. And the sad truth about it is that so for example, British troops in Helmand, their average weight that they would carry around the body, including all the parts of equipment that they would have, would be about 120 pounds. And that's a lot of weight. That effectively makes you a tactical no-go if you want to be doing classical infantry stuff. And there's a lot involved in what those guys are going to be carrying, including large pieces of electronic equipment, etc. Okay, so you don't have to carry all that stuff unless you are actually in the military deployed in Afghanistan, etc. Okay, so you can avoid that situation, and you don't want to be carrying that much weight. I would say you want to be carrying 30 to 50 pounds around the body, and that's probably it. And that's going to allow you to maneuver, including going prone. So the more that you put on your back, the less likely you're going to want to go prone, the worse fire positions you're going to take up, the harder it is to move. And that's going to be an issue. Also, if you're carrying sustainment loads on a move, even though you're going to cache that stuff at the ORP before you go on to the objective, if you get hit unexpectedly on that move, then you're encumbered with all this stuff, which is not only going to impact your reaction, but at the same time, you're going to dump that stuff. You're probably never going to see it again. Okay, so it's something to consider. Okay, in this rig, so first spear assault armor carrier. It's a good bit of kit. Again, there's the balance between weight and maneuverability. So fitness is a factor in that too. In order to help myself with that, the plates that I've got in there are the shot stop, the green tip special threat plates. So these are level 3 plus special threat, which means they've been tested also to stop green tip, etc. And they weigh 4.5 pounds each. They're very thin. Actually, this makes a big difference. You do get other special threat green tip plates that are very thick, and then when you put these in, the whole thing just feels lighter because the whole thing sits closer to your body. So this is a good compromise in terms of, I want to have some kind of protection because it's a good idea if the rounds are flying, but I don't want to carry too much weight. I certainly don't want to wear steel, etc. So here's a good option. And they're not ceramic; they're made of Dyneema, etc. So they don't. There's no problem with they don't crack, etc. Now, so we've talked about the we've got the battle belt now, and then we've got the PC. The alternative to the PC would be to wear a chest rig. So what we've talked about here is we're in a situation where we, for whatever reason, terrain, weather, temperature, duration, environment, etc., we don't want to wear a plate carrier because it's killing us. Okay, so we're going to have to make a decision between, okay, we'll lose the protection of that plate carrier and we'll wear a chest rig instead. That's great, and you're going to be a lot more comfortable if you're wearing a chest rig like this. This is actually one of the MVT SOR chest rigs, and if you're talking about radios, etc., so we've got a specially designed pouch on the side here that if you are carrying any kind of radio, that's where it's going to go. So this is going to give you, the equipment carriage ability that the PC does, but it's going to be a lot lighter. And that's great until you get shot in the chest. Okay, so these are all important things to consider. What you can do, as I mentioned before, with this kind of rig, and there's a number of other rigs like it on the market, is that you can actually unclip the straps on it, and you can get the kit that you put on your PC, and therefore you wouldn't have the mag pouches on the PC like I showed you. And then what you can do, it's got the Velcro here as well, is you can then actually attach this to your PC. So that gives you an option of carrying a slick PC. If you want to do, you know, be a little bit more flexible, you have a slick PC and you have a chest rig, and then you've got the ability to clip this on and off. So you could, for example, do an approach march, you know, wearing it as a chest rig, and then close to the objective, the plate carrier goes on, and you can clip this to it. So this is just a little bit of ideas of flexibility that you can consider. So one of the big issues is backpacks, or what you're going to carry. I mentioned that there was a small sustainment pouch ability on the back of my PC, and you can consider, well, what am I going to carry, and you know, what size sort of day pack am I going to carry? And really, that's going to come down to what kind of operation that you're going to be doing, and you really want to get that as small as possible. There are some considerations with that in terms of, well, if it's winter, then you might have to put some relatively light but bulky equipment in it, so you might want a larger day pack. The danger is that you start to fill that with stuff. And so really, you shouldn't be considering carrying a huge amount of gear. You're going to have necessary clothing for the environment in there. Even as far as if it's hot weather, you're going to have spare socks in there, foot powder, that kind of thing. Cold weather equipment, rain gear, that kind of stuff, but just not too much of it. You're going to want to have emergency rations, and what you're taking out there is sustainment rations. You're going to want to have water, whether that's in some kind of hydration bladder, or whether you're just carrying canteens or water bottles. You're going to put your night vision equipment in there if that's where you decide to carry it, unless you carry it on some kind of other pouch. You're going to have spare batteries. You're going to have little odds and sods that you're going to need for going out on that mission. But you don't want to start to get into the whole, hey, what happens if this happens? I need this and this and this and this, because you're just going to end up carrying a whole bunch. It's kind of like the prepper mindset, you know, 2 is none, etc., or 1 is none, 2 is whatever. Okay, so you don't want to carry all that stuff. I would rather be lighter and have to just make do with not having some amazing piece of equipment than have everything, and then most of the time you never use it. Okay, so again, that might make you feel a little bit naked, but you've got to sort of get used to that and just try and pare down this equipment to what it genuinely needs to be. So, for example, this is actually another first bit of equipment, and no, First Spear is not sponsoring me today. That'd be nice. So this is a relatively lightweight pack of the sort that it's got a water bladder in it. So if, for example, I wanted to carry a little bit more with me on patrol, I could, for example, either unpack the assaulter panel off the back of this, or simply unzip it in preparation for the mission, and then I'm going to have this. One of the things I like about this is that the straps are really kind of thin, and so sometimes what you do is you'll get people that the straps are going to be really big and padded, and that you don't need that for this kind of weight, and it's just gonna impede your shoulders, and it's going to impede you as you're moving along, especially because whenever you are wearing a body armor plate, it's going to push the weight of the pack backwards, as well as having it when they normally hang down. So it just kind of, it's uncomfortable, it's going to impede the use of your weapon, etc. What this has on it, it's this, what they call a beaver tail, which adjusts, and then these are going to adjust, and that can be taken off. But what this is really useful for is, as I discussed before, where are you going to put your helmet? It's a big thing, right? Where are you going to put your helmet? You either wear it on your head, or maybe you've just got a helmet for night operations. Maybe you're not wearing it during the day, or maybe you've got a helmet for when you get close to the objective, etc. What you can do with this is you can put it in the thing, expand that, okay, and that's a way of carrying your helmet. All right. So I really, you know, I don't want to be carrying, especially if I'm wearing a plate carrier, okay? I do not want to be carrying more than this as a sustainment load, okay? because I start to become a tactical no-go at that point. You'll see the military doing it, and it is what it is, okay? It's not necessarily what you want to be doing, okay? This is the Carrymore SF. It's about a 30-litre version. They do a 45-litre patrol version, and I put some additional pouches on the outside, etc. And so this is probably as big as I'm going to go in terms of, you know, this expands, obviously. In terms of, I'm not going to want to carry anything larger than this on patrol. And if I was to have to carry this for whatever reason, you know, packed out with gear, etc., then that starts to get into the realm of, am I doing it with a PC on, or am I then going to go to a chest rig? Now, if I was wearing a battle belt and a chest rig and this, depending what I've got in it, of course, I'm probably going to be okay, actually, in all reality. That's probably, you know, not too much stuff. But if I'm wearing it with a PC and I've got this fully packed out, I'm probably getting into the realm of carrying too much gear, okay? What's good about this, it does have a waist belt on that you can use, which, you know, you never do. It's got a lot of features to it. It does have a water bladder in it. But what I like about it is the, it's kind of old school. It's actually, you know, Carrymore is a British company. This is their SF version, the 45 and the 30. And it's designed specifically for that. And so it's got the old school, whatever you call it here. But it's got the lid, the old school lid, which does up to a couple of buckles and will expand as much as you need it to expand, and that's really useful. Most of the things you see nowadays are kind of book bag type designs, and they're atrocious. Okay, even this one here, you know, it's kind of that book bag kind of design, and you know, but whereas this gives you the ability to, you know, put stuff in it, and it also gives you the ability to put your helmet in it. So that's, you know, there's no beaver tail on this, but you can put your helmet at the top and do the lid up over the top. That's another way to carry your helmet. It does give you the ability to expand it and to put more gear into it. And, you know, on the one hand I'm saying you don't want to carry too much gear, but the other hand is that, you know, sometimes depending on what you're doing, you know, is there an expectation of swag, etc., then having a little bit extra space is not necessarily a bad thing. And of course these packs, they do have side compression straps, etc., so they will cinch down. So if I had to carry a day pack for whatever reason, then something like a 30-litre, something like this is a very good idea, because it's got the capacity to actually carry some equipment. When it comes to day packs, I would just reiterate just to be careful of the amount of gear that you're planning on carrying, and to try and be as light as possible. I mean, having a day pack like this is great. Try not to fill it up all the time, or you've got some extra space in here because it's winter, etc., and you've got the ability to throw a bit of a lightweight shelter in there, you know, some kind of extreme cold weather jacket, which is going to be, you know, take up space but isn't going to weigh a lot. So there's a lot of flexibility with something like this. Just be careful with it. So guys, there's kind of a lot there. I think it's important that when you're thinking about the gear that you're going to potentially take out on missions, is to think about what you actually need, and then have some flexibility in it. You obviously need to take with you the equipment to achieve the mission, whatever that might be, and you don't want to pack gear just because, you know, that's what you think the cool guys are doing, etc. So think carefully about what you're going to do. Only carry as much as you need to carry, and be very careful that you don't carry too much, just with the idea of too many of those just in case contingency situations. If there's a danger that you could be involved in people shooting at you, which is probably likely the reason that you're wearing the stuff in the first place, is I would suggest that you try and plan to wear ballistic plates. If for whatever reason that isn't practical, then you've got the idea of wearing a chest rig, and there's various sort of ways that you can figure that out. And that's going to also depend on the time of year. It's going to depend on the you know, how far you got to go, the terrain, the environment, etc. Just realize that if you are wearing plates, I mean, when I used to wear these operationally, you're going to be sweaty all the time, unless of course it's like winter. So it's just something you have to live with. If you're going to be wearing them, ballistic plates in a plate carrier, you're going to be sweaty underneath, and you're going to have to make sure that you hydrate enough, etc. And these are all planning considerations. Alright guys, that's probably enough. Probably been talking too long. So I'll see if there's any questions in comments, and also if it comes out that there's aspects of this that you want me to talk about further, I can always look at making another video about that the same way I did about the helmets. Thank you very much.